co-host. All right, everybody knows me now. Listen, we have a very interesting guy on this podcast today, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I'm not a big sports person, so I'm gonna be hopefully getting him to tell us the future. Okay, hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Uh, so, and the neat thing about it is he's also a sports journalist. Now, I don't want to tell too much of his story by any means without getting into all these other questions that I have that's running through my mind. And he's also an author. And without further ado, Mr. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Listen, thank you for being here, sir. Thank you for helping us to break stigmas and boundaries one day at a time regarding mental health.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hey, we all got something, and life's hard. So getting through it with people around you and talking about it, that's half the battle.
Mm, you're right. No, absolutely. Listen, you're a sports editor. I mean, sports journalist and all that. So I have to ask, I don't want to lose too much money. So who's winning the Super Bowl this year?
After what I saw the other day, barring any snow, I, I got to put the money on Seattle at this point, don't you think?
I have to agree. Absolutely. Seattle actually, I think done pretty decent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they looked pretty good the other day. They knocked the crap out of my 49ers a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, we don't even. Yeah, we have nothing but respect for him.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that turned me off from sports, from the Panthers, not from sports, but from for the Panthers, when Cam Newton played with us, and we went to the Super Bowl against.
Uh-huh. 10 years ago against Denver.
Yep, yep. And I'm gonna tell you what, he got off that bus, and you could feel that ego through the TV.
Have you seen that guy lately?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen anything with Cam Newton.
He does some TV and podcasting right now. That guy, he must have put all his money into hats because that guy has the greatest collection of hats. Um, I don't know what the heck he's doing with his wardrobe, but he's a hat man.
Wow.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this, okay? Because writing and mental health and professional and personal development, and of course journalism, all of this can be woven in together. And you wrote of course, you're an author, and so a lot of your book is about, at least the one we were talking about is about relationships and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, and relationships are important for recovery, and I'll say recovery in general. So let me ask you this: what prompted you to go into sports journalism?
I grew up in San Francisco, um, and I was barely 5 foot as a freshman in high school. I was a little guy, and I loved sports. Grew up in a sports neighborhood, and played football and played basketball and played baseball and did all those things. But I was pretty pragmatic about it, realizing that while my friends were saying they were going to play running back for the 49ers or point guard for the Golden State Warriors, I could see that I wasn't going to be big or fast or athletic enough to do these sorts of things. There was a show on TV at this point called The Odd Couple, and it was with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. Two divorced men living in a house. One of them was a sports writer, Jack Klugman. His name was Oscar Madison. Had this great job where he went out to the ballpark every day, got to interview all the great players, and got to be at the ballpark every day. When I was a kid, going to the ballpark was like going to Disneyland. It was the best. It was Christmas Day. And I said, wow, if I could do this every day, that would be amazing. That's what I wanted to be. I was 10, 11 years old and knew what I wanted to be.
Wow, that is so crazy. 10, 11 years old, knowing what your dream job and dream career is going to be. So you set forth to do that. And let me ask you this. What has been some of the high points of your career?
Um, I got through journalism school. I wasn't a great student, but I found something I loved, and it was the first thing in my life that made me really study and want to study to be better at. And I was blessed to be around some to, some really good mentors in my life, people who came across and almost with a tough love kind of thing. That was the way it was when I was growing up. The people who mattered to you weren't really warm and fuzzy about it. They just showed you how to do it, and when you screwed up, they let you know. So, um, but when you did it right, they also let you know. And when you got a blessing from somebody who's been ripping on you for the first 2 months, and you finally get it right. And I was pretty good at learning from my mistakes, and I gained their acceptance. That's a high point in life. Those are those little things. Gradually, I started getting, I got hired by newspapers, and I had a little bit of talent, and I had people along the way who kind of helped me, work on the things I needed working on. And I got an opportunity to go to Kansas City and cover the National Football League, which meant leaving home, which was probably the toughest thing I ever did in my life. Going 1,800 miles away from this huge Italian family that is all up in your business every minute of the day. Um, and somewhere being all alone somewhere. That's a reset in life in a lot of ways. And it was a good thing, but it made me realize how much I miss, you know, how blessed I was to have this family, and not being around them was hard. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about, the importance of family because you and I had briefly spoke about that prior to getting on. Family is critical for, recovery. And give me a second. Dogs barking in the background.
Oh,
And mental health is critical for our own development, for our own growth, for our own recovery. And you spoke about mentors and having the amazing mentors. And even I look at mentor in our relationship with mentors and mentees similar to family. They are what make us or break us in our prospective careers. Without their feedback, without their, them challenging us, are we really living up to our potential? Are we really growing and going forth in our careers? I remember I first became a clinical soup at Scott Spires. I will never forget him. He's an awesome guy. I love him to death. Um, Time I would mess up, he would let me know every single time. And then when I finally did something right, he was like, "Oh my God, you're so amazing, man! You're growing so fast." So yeah, having those mentors is crucial
isn't that
because
the best feeling when you get an attaboy from someone like that though?
right, absolutely
Because it's never happened before.
right,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that was special. Those are the things that make you want to do another good thing, right? You know, and that was fun. It was just it it was a good time to grow up and be surrounded by people like that, and the people of my parents' generations, the people who trained me to be uh to to move forward in my career, they were not a warm and fuzzy generation of people. They were children of the Depression. They were children of World War II. They had been through it, and
Mm.
so they knew what tough life was. So they just kind of let you know when things were tough, and how you had to be better, and they weren't going to sugarcoat it for you.
Right. No, and I think we're missing I think over time, since even I grew up with sounds like very similar to what you grew up with. And of course the mentors, you know, they're not afraid to let you know, what's going on, right? And they show tough love, right? It's that tough love.
It
And I
was
think we
absolutely tough love.
right. And it's not that they're, abusing me, right? They're not emotionally abusing me or verbally abusing me. No, no, they're letting me know that, hey, I screwed up. I need to do this and I need to do that right. And I need to do this different. And I need to do this better. And it's letting me know, giving me that proper guidance of how to think critically.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten away from those things.
Well, I wonder how we strayed so far away from it. And a lot of it has to do, sadly, it's our generation. When we became parents, we decided we were going to be um we were going to have a gentler touch with our kids. Now, we say I love you to them more than I ever heard from my parents, but we're a whole lot gentler with them, and I think we've kind of made them a they're far less receptive to criticism now.
Mm. And that potentially could. I'm not an expert in that, but I could see how that could potentially do that. Um, do you feel like if you didn't have the mentors that you had in the field in of sports, journalism, do you feel like you would have become the journalist that you are?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, I came from a two-parent household, which, you know, most of my friends had that same blessing. Um, but neither of my parents went to college, and I wasn't expected to go to college. As a matter of fact, when I said I was going to college, it was uh, it was met with um, not surprise, but it wasn't expected of me either. You know, it, my siblings went right into the workplace out of high school, and I went off to college. I knew what I wanted to do, and this is the way I had to get there. You had to have that piece of paper saying you'd put in your time at the college level, and so it was a different. I was kind of blazing my own trail more than anything. So not knowing who uh, or not having a real role model in my house or in my family, those mentors just kind of, I think God puts them in your path, and you walk that path with them for a while. They have a message to teach you, or to tell you, and a lesson to teach you. And you glean what you can, and if you're smart, you listen.
Mm,
And I was a thick-skulled young kid, but I kind of realized that, there were some real good people who were trying to help me.
mm. And I would have to say that I can identify with what you were just sharing. I met some of my mentors when I was late teens, early 20s,
Mhm.
and established phenomenal, beautiful relationships with them. And if it wasn't for them, I don't think I'd be where I'm at right now. I don't think
Yeah,
what's
I
going
had
on.
no idea what the path was. You know,
Right.
how you have no idea you're blazing a new trail, something that's never been done in your family, and you have no idea how to get there. You have no idea if you're going in the right direction. Those people were compasses. They were navigators for you. They mattered. And I had a teacher in at my first college journalism teacher, you know, was hard on me, but he was for 2 years. He was great for me. When I finally started buying into what he was saying, life became a whole lot simpler. The light bulb went on, and he opened the doors for other people to come into my life. And so it was special. I mean, you look at it now, and at the time, as you're going through it, you don't recognize it. You're too young and stupid. But you look back at it later and you go, wow, it's not a coincidence where we are. Those people were put in our lives for a reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are I definitely 100% agree with that. People come into my life for one of three reasons: a lifetime, a season, or a reason, right? And I think that's how it goes anyways.
That's a
It's
great
been a
line.
while
I've
since,
never heard
since I've heard that. I'm like, okay. But no, you're right. And I don't think we ever really know
that.
why people come into our lifetimes, or
Yes.
come onto our path, and why our path meets with others or what have you. Um, I don't think we ever really know that, especially early on. I think we maybe figure it out later, but not early on.
So you look back at your life 40 years later and you think about how you got here, how you got to the place you are, be it good or bad. And you came across, you walked this path and you came to these forks in the road and you made a decision. And you walked a little longer that way and you made a decision. Sometimes you retreated back to that fork and you went the other way. But it all makes sense as you look, perspective and foresight gives you that perspective on how things happen. As you're doing it, you're just trying to survive. You're doing what you think is best for you at that moment.
Absolutely. No, and I think, as you said, at least in my experience is I didn't know what the path was, especially early on. And when I met the folks that are in my corner, who has walked a path before me, they were giving me very similar paths and very similar information, and it was up to me. And so to take the bull by the horns, I couldn't depend on them to live it for me. I had to apply it myself. And as a result, I got to, everything seemed to have turned itself around, for me in my personal life. So let me ask you this, okay? We talk about the mentors, we talk about the relationships, right? Because those are what make us or break us as far as in our mentor menteeship, right?
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this: your book. When did you decide to write your book?
About 10 years ago, maybe a little less than that, maybe 8 years ago, um, there was a mass layoff at one of the newspapers in our area, the big paper. Um, and I looked at it. I l- I was surprised, and then I became more surprised when I noticed some of my best friends, some really good journalists, lost their jobs in this whole thing. And I said, "Wow, well, what happened if this were to happen to me?" And it just became this. I started writing down some notes. I'm like, no one's ever written this story before. But when a good journalist loses a job, you go, wow, what would I do? Would I stay in the business? Would I get out? What's my choices here? Became this idea for a book, got put on the back burner, and about 3 years ago, I had a little health scare in my life where I was out of work for about 9 weeks, and I had 9 weeks to do something. I said, okay, I don't have to write right now. I don't have to do anything with my job, so I want to do something meaningful in this time. So I woke up every day and I wrote for 2 hours. I picked up those notes, found them in a old computer file. I said, yeah, this could be a good time to dig into this, see what I can do. Wrote for 2 hours every day for 9 weeks, and at the end of those 9 weeks, lo and behold, I have a first draft of a book, and I'm like, wow, I was pretty proud of myself because writing a book is hard. It seems like a big deal when you're a journalist because you write 500 words a day and you think you've, you know, solved the world at that point. But writing 100,000 words for a book, yeah, that seems like something. And I was really reluctant to call it a book because, you know, I'm not an author. Being an author is pretentious when you're a journalist. Yeah, you would never tell your friends you're an author. And so I said, I wrote something and I don't know what it is. And I had a couple of people read it and they went, wow, this is pretty good. And so I found an editor in Colorado, and he took the job on, and he did a really good job of. It took him about a month to read through, redline the whole thing, and then we started moving things around because writing a book, you think you're done with the first draft, you're not even close. It's That's crazy. He goes, "Are you ready to work now?" And yeah, the next 2 months were crazy because now you're moving chapters here, and the transitions are all screwed up. So you have to make it fit, and it's like a puzzle. You're putting it back together again, and it was fun. It was a fun project, and it was very challenging. But the second write through was harder than the first. Um, it was fun. And when I was done, I was really proud of it. So, but once again, I wouldn't call it a book. So, nor would I call myself an author at that point. So, I'm finally getting to that point where I kind of reluctantly say I am. So, anyway, not to be
Wow.
pretentious.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The journey to the destination is always interesting.
It was a fun journey. Yes.
Wow. So, okay, you made a comment. A journalist is not an author. I'm
Well,
curious.
we don't think of ourselves as authors. Yeah. We just think of ourselves as we write a little bit each day. We have a little deadline each day.
Well, now, are you still into into journalism right now?
No, well, I'm a retired journalist, but I got sucked back into something by my brother when I moved back to the Bay Area. He talked me into starting a high school baseball website with him. And there's no money to be made in this whole thing. It's just giving back to a community that gave to us. So we write about kids each day, and they get to see their names on the website. You know, we don't have the money to print a paper each day, but we load up stuff for them, and they love it. So that's what we do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a complete give back, and we've gotten complete buy-in from this high school baseball community, from San Francisco down to San Jose. There's 30 something schools, and we've got all of them on board with us, and they call us, and it's pretty amazing, and it happened so quickly and so organically that that's another one of those things that God was telling us. All right, jump in. This is a good thing, so go for it. So that's my dipping my toe in journalism, in my journalism practice, although I'm not making any money doing it. Now, I'm still writing books as well. I'm on a second book, and I just finishing it, and I came across a project for a third book that I'm meeting with someone about tomorrow. So I'm pretty busy for a retired guy. You're supposed to laugh at that. I
Pretty,
have all these
pretty.
jobs that pay me no money, but I'm having a blast.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
no, I'll be. Listen, I'm the same way on this podcast. We don't make any money at all, but it's
Yeah.
one of those things that I enjoy meeting the people, getting the laughs, talking about mental health, growth, personal circumstances, and getting some good stories, and getting some great narratives, and posting the stuff on social media. But I don't get paid to do that.
Yeah.
Trevor, when Trevor and Ruben and or Josh are able to join, we don't get paid to do this.
Yeah, I get it. I get it completely.
Yeah, yeah, and we enjoy the best out of it. We enjoy it because it's something that we're doing to give back to the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And that's what it you could put a smile on somebody's face. You could pass along a message, do whatever it takes. Um, it makes the community a better place. And when people come up and thank you for it, feels good.
yep, absolutely. And so let's dig into your book, okay?
All right.
Because it's about a successful person losing their journalism job, and
Uh-huh.
it's
And
also
he and
about
he's suspecting he's gonna lose it. He's
respect.
driving to work and he's going, wow, I don't know why they called this meeting today, but this is weird. And he thinks it's coming. He's thinking about it. You know, he's got his spidey senses up.
Mm,
So as he's driving to work, he's just kind of thinking about where his life, uh, how much he liked his job, and then you get into the people, you get into some of the stories that he got to. The one cool thing about the story is that a lot of the sports stories in there are true. Some of the NFL locker rooms I covered, there's some true stories in there, and you'll recognize names, you'll recognize the games, and yeah, there's just a lot of recognition to be had in there, and it all happens in historically correct times. So he's going through that whole thing, and then you're watching his career rise as the newspaper industry is kind of uh, beginning its descent to where it is today.
mm,
So the it's a job he held for 32 years, and so this descent was a slow descent, and it began with the rise of the internet. All of a sudden, people didn't need to go and buy a newspaper each day. They could read it online. They could get all their news wherever they wanted, and the ills of the social media and uh, the way people um, get their news, and whether all of it is true or not. How um, journalism is taking a hit because so much of the news that's out there, particularly on the internet, is just not true. So there's all this stuff. The whole fake news argument is such a there's some truth to all of it, and it's a black eye to journalism. It's a black eye to the media industry, and it kind of made its own bed. They made some really bad decisions over the years and found themselves in a bad position because of the advent of the internet.
mm. So, speaking to a journalist, I have to
Yeah.
ask: you used this huge phrase, and it's only two words, but it's a huge phrase that has become very predominant in the news industry since 2015 ish, roughly give or take, maybe before then, but
Uh-huh.
from my memory, 2015 ish. But you use the term fake news.
Yes.
So let me ask you this then: how much of the news is fake?
The problem is that corporate journalism has become a it has given people the ability to find not the facts they need to know, but the facts that make them feel better. So not what they need to hear, but what they want to hear. So you could go anywhere on the cable news right now and find a channel that will meet your needs. You could watch all of those channels, which I do, and you could see the same story, and have no idea which one of them is true, which is a really sad state of affairs because nobody knows who's dealing from the top of the deck right now. I think they're all dealing from the middle of the deck and they cherry pick the news that helps their slant. And it's sad. No one's lying completely, but there's a lot of lies of omissions in there. You're leaving out, you're not telling the whole story. So it's scary. Fake news is real. Um, but it, a lot of it is done in the name of survival right now. Um, you're seeing so many newspapers fold up. You're seeing so many uh, television stations lose their ratings. They have to cater to the people who are watching them right now. That's the mess they created.
So coming from a sports journalism perspective,
Hmm.
what do you feel like? Because back in your day when you were, when you got into the field, right? And I say back in your day, I'm talking about when you first got into the field. I'm not trying to, the ageism here or anything like
No, no, no. When I got in, it was the golden age. I will tell you, it was. We were 10 years removed from Watergate, and everybody was just. It was. It was report hard, and wherever the facts led you, that was your story, and that was journalism. That was the journalism we learned.
so what do you feel like was the is the downfall or the reason for that kind of sort of, I guess, downfall between
Yeah.
actual journalism back when you learned it and when you came into it, whether it's sports or not sports, versus.
Well, eh, I don't. The simplest thing to say, I would say that the Donald Trump era of American politics has shined a light on it. I think his biggest sin isn't that he created fake news, but he shined a light on it. He is he's a disruptor, and maybe things needed to be disrupted. I don't know, but he has come forward and he's toppled a lot of institutions in our world. And there are a lot of people who are mad at him because of that. Is he the perfect man? He's far from it. Is he is a he's an interesting man for sure. I would love to sit down with him someday and just interview him. I think he'd be amazing to talk to. Um, I think his I don't think he's a Republican and I don't think he's a Democrat. I think he's a disruptor. I think his job was to go in there and topple all of Washington D.C. And that's what he planned to do and that's what he's doing right now. And in the process he's toppling a lot of norms in America.
Hmm. When you talk about, trying to actually interview people, there's quite a few people that's in politics I would love to get on this show. Absolutely. Um, just to get their perspective on certain things, because mental health and relationships, as you were saying, right, as we've been kind of dabbling back and forth with,
Hmm.
throughout, it is it is very dynamic. It's not an exact science. So what do you feel like within all of this stuff, and more specifically also with your book, what do you feel like, where do you feel like relationships are important or come into play at within society, within recovery itself?
I think you could blame a lot of the social. I've always said the fast food industry. I, if you want to boil everything down, let's look at the fast food industry and what it did. First of all, health wise, I think it's ruined a generation or two generations of people. Um, but I think what it did more than anything is it gave people a reason not to eat dinner at the table with their family. And I grew up in a household where dinner time was at 6 o'clock and everybody was at the table and you sat there and you ate. And you talked about your day. It wasn't always, a wonderful conversation, but it was the where you shared your it was where the family got together. It was a one place that got together. I think the denigration, the disintegration of the nuclear family has done more to hurt America um, in the last 30 years than anything. And and you could look at so many aspects of it, but it's just changed life. Kids are it's a different breed of kid now. Um, Nowadays, you get a kid at a table and they've got some device in their hand, and you look and you go, "What are you doing? Get that thing out of your hands. We're sitting here eating dinner." And I deal with that one with my nieces and my nephews as we speak. Uh, it's one of those things that this has become the norm. We have forgotten the things that I wouldn't say we were ever great as a family, but we did have a greatness to us. Um, we had a sense of just community and a sense of this is us right here, this table, this is us. That table's really symbolic, don't you think?
Yeah, I follow a guy on um social media, and I forget his name, but he talks about Mexico, and he literally walks the streets of Mexico, and he does live, right? He does a lot of live videos and stuff, and I forget his name, but he talks about how the difference between America and Mexico, as far as like the what you were just talking about, the tradition of family, the importance of community.
Mhm.
And in my studies, and I say in my studies because I'm very, I pride myself on being very culturally aware, and I say to the best of my ability. When I look at a lot of your Eastern cultures versus Western civilization, as you were saying, I think one of the biggest differences in recent times is the lack of family, lack of community, that breakdown of the nuclear family system, right? Because and I teach about it too. I teach about it whenever I do therapy, whenever it comes up, is y- too often too often we have kids come to us, or go to their parents, and they start saying certain things, and then the first thing we do is hand them this little thing right here and tell them, go ahead and we'll talk later. And we there's no there's no emotional processing, there's no behavioral processing, thought processing, or anything. It's just, oh, just take this and get out of here, just take this and get out of my hair, we'll
Mhm.
deal with it later. And as I think that has also led to a breakdown in emotional awareness, emotional understanding. I hate the word or the phrase emotion regulation, absolute worst thing that somebody could have ever said, because what are we teaching them about themselves? What are we learning about ourselves in the process of all of this?
Right. No, we've kind of done it to ourselves. We've let these things into our world um, that made life more convenient, and in the long run complicated things, ironically enough. Um, and and you could start with fast food, and you could carry that all the way into carrying a computer on your hip all day long and having your eyes in it, uh, you know, 12 hours a day. You know, most of your waking moments in life. So these things were meant to make life simpler. And have they really, if you look down to it, have they complicated things or have they made life simpler?
I mean, I think you are right. And I think the thing that I don't know if, and I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories here because, I can sure enough go down into a conspiracy theory. I don't think the ultimate goal was the destruction of the nuclear family. I don't,
Hmm.
with all of these devices, computers, phones, and everything else, I don't think it was. I don't think the ultimate goal was. Now, my conspiracy theory says 100% absolutely they wanted to control the population. Right? But that's
Hmm.
my conspiracy theory. Again, reality based. I don't think they wanted or their ultimate goal was to destroy the family unit, right? Because if you look at it, you have what you were just talking about. You have a lot of families that are forcing, hey, we're going to sit down at this table. All the phones go in the middle. All the computers are put up. All this is put up. All the tablets are put up. We're going to have this time. You look at a lot of your traditional families, very similar practices, right? Absolutely no phones, no talking on the phones. It's just everybody, one
Right.
big unit. And you know, where do we go astray at? Where did we go? Get away from though. From those ideals, from those traditions.
Do you remember when you were a kid? And I know it was this way in my house, but if the phone rang while we were eating dinner, whoever was on the other end was about to be, if it was one of my friends, one of my parents would answer the phone and say, "We're in the middle of dinner right now, and you should know that this is not a proper hour to call." These norms, these expectations of society have just unraveled somewhere along the line. Um, it's just a different world, and trying to rein it in, I don't know how you do it.
I will say one thing to answer that question. I think it starts with doing things like this. It starts with addressing it publicly. Starts with addressing it within our own personal and professional relationships, and I think that's really what it is. Because whenever I do this editing, right, all of this stuff is going to be on social media, uh,
Hmm.
and of course, it'll be various clips that lead back to this main video. So I think you're right. I mean, there's so many things that I feel like we can just small things that we can just do to get back to the importance of the family unit, at least to practice that and to implement those ideals. And I think it literally, can start as or be as simple as when your child comes to you, instead of giving them that phone or that iPad and say, "Here, just play with this and just shoo, poof, be gone, just shoo out of here." Instead of doing that, sit them down and actually have a genuine human to human conversation. Doesn't matter if they're babbling and they're not able to converse using words like we're using. Doesn't matter. You're still teaching them that human to human interaction, whether it's
Yeah,
conscious
that's great.
or unconsciously.
No, that's amazing. I remember it must have been in the last 5 years. I saw something come across the internet because we're all uh, slaves to the internet now. Um, and it was National Have Dinner as a Family at the Table night. And I looked and I said, "Well, what a great idea." But why is that, this is going to be this is being proposed for this one night, but this used to be the norm. And now we're looking at, instead of 365 days a year, we're looking at one out of every 365 days a year. This is going to be it. That's how far we've slipped as a group, as a society, is this thing that used to you didn't even think twice about is now having to be advertised as this is going to be really cool. Everybody do it. This one night, this one night you'll love it. How'd this happen?
I mean, I think it goes back even to, we have one day a year that is, that is known as Overdose Awareness Day, right? And it's
Uh-huh.
like we have approximately 295 people a day overdosing from drugs and dying.
Wow.
And we only have one day a year that we really, everybody's on social media has got these black balloons and purple this, that, and the third, what have you. And it's like, or even that one day of suicide awareness day, right? Like,
Mhm.
or one day for ALS awareness. And no, I mean, we have a whole whatever it is for sports, right? 8 months of sports going on if it's football or what have you, right? From summer to February, right? Like you have literally every weekend there's sports games going on. Um, we advertise those. We, have Pepsi and Coke and Gatorade and music and all of these advertisements there for sports, but yet what do we have for, hey, let's have a family night, right? We have that one day a year, 365 days,
Mhm.
364 days a year. We don't talk about it, or
Right.
it's not in a awareness day. Same thing with, all the other stuff. I mean, it's like, really, where did we ever go astray at in society? And this is more than just in journalism. This is as a society, society as a whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to say that journalism is at the cutting edge of everything that goes on in the world, but that would be silly. Um, the everything it all unraveled somewhere, and I don't know where it happened. Nobody blames the snowflake for the avalanche. It's somewhere along the line it just happened, and it just kept gathering and gathering, and here we are.
Yeah.
So,
And it
getting
shows me.
it back getting it back would take some work, but I don't think it's impossible to say we're gonna start eating dinner at the table each night.
Even if you set little goals, as such as 3 days a week for the next month,
Yes,
then the following month we're going to do 4 days a week.
yes. I think those things are completely doable. It's whether you want to do it and whether you, think that it's something that would help you, and I don't understand why people would think it wasn't helpful. Hey, I think people are at their wits' end, and if you don't see that if you're not at that point, I don't know what you're looking at this point.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And so that goes to show me that, and I'd like to hear it from how you wove this to your book too. It goes to show me that relationships are crucial to
Mm,
our survival as a species, to our survival as a family unit, to even our survival as a community, whether it's a town, city, state, or nation.
absolutely. Well, in the book, my lead character is a sports columnist, and and he finds love, but then he's torn between a career he loves and a woman he loves. And how do you serve both masters? How do you make both happy? And um, in the end, he you know he's only lived one way in his life, and it was chasing a story when he had to. And if that meant being away, then so be it. She knew what she was getting into. And at some point, she gets tired and she says, "I've done this all I can. All I could. I've been patient." And it breaks his heart, but he says, I gave it a try. And at the end of the day, he realizes that he bet on the wrong horse. He should have bet on her all along. And that's a sad part, that it takes losing something to realize what you had.
Mm. Being pulled in two different directions, and which one do you go?
Yeah.
You know, that reminds me of substance use and drug addiction, where I want my cake and I want to eat it too.
And it won't be here tomorrow somehow if I eat it.
Right.
What am I gonna do?
Right, right. Wow. Well,
Yeah,
no,
it's a tough world. I mean, it's life is hard, and these choices we make are hard, and we make a lot of wrong choices, and we live with them. And that's the whole path we talk about being on. And like you said, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. You have to make that decision. Why is this person in my life? And um, the ones that are in there for the long haul, you need to recognize, and you need to do all you can to prevent anything from ever jeopardizing that.
I could not agree more. I couldn't have said it any better than that. You know, I think
You fed half the lines to me on that one.
well, it's your wisdom that pulled it all together.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. But I'm not an author, remember, that would be pretentious.
Wow, wow. No, man, it's we started off at by being on the path, and we're coming back around to being on the path.
Yeah,
It all.
the path is not always paved. You know, sometimes it's muddy, sometimes it's rocky, and sometimes it's steep, and sometimes it's downhill. You got to figure out how you're going to navigate this, and navigating it alone isn't always an option
Mm,
until it is, until you're all alone.
mm.
But God never gives you more than you can handle either. And he puts someone in your path, and you need to figure it out. The interesting part about that is he also puts, in addition to the people he puts in your path, there's also some charlatans that get in that path too. And they're the ones who are trying to, they're there for really bad reasons, and you got to figure them out. And as a result, we go into life very, a lot of people are skeptical about the people who come into their lives because they've been burned.
Recovery is about being aware and recognizing that relationships aren't perfect, and I'm supposed to be burned by people, but I'm also supposed to be supported by others. I'm supposed to be built and assisted by others. Can't have the good without the bad. Can't have the bad without the good. Can't have the failures without the successes. Can't have the successes without the failures.
How do you discern the good from the bad people in your life? And excuse me, is it about making yourself vulnerable and trusting, and 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 understanding that if you get burned, this might be a reason to cut bait on a relationship.
Hmm. It's a good question, and I think it goes back to the idea that who am I to define what is good and bad? What if I
Mhm.
just let it be as it may be and let it play itself out? And because eventually, if it's meant to be, if it's a reason, season, or a lifetime on this path, you know, it'll show in time. Time has a way of taking care of everything, as I like to say.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I don't have to define anything as good or bad. That's like anger. We think anger is a bad emotion. Actually, it's a good emotion. It's a very healthy emotion. It's
Okay.
what we do with that anger that matters.
Hmm.
Am I burning down the next door neighbor's house because he said something to me out the wrong?
Well,
Right?
you went there, huh? You went right to burning down his house.
Hey, listen, you, it's either that or put his cars on flat, right?
All right. No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You
So
must have
yeah.
done something bad.
Well, listen, I keep being asked what his name is, and it's Jimmy, Johnny, Jamie, Joni, something, John, something, Timmy, Tom, something. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah,
But
no,
no, you're right. You're right. It is d- sometimes good is disguised as bad. Sometimes bad is disguised as good.
yep.
There's a fine line. I always you watch these superhero movies, and I don't my daughter used to drag me to these things all the time. She loved them. But you always find that the supervillain in these movies, they always started off being good people, and something drove them over. And even the superhero started off as just a normal person, and towed the line between good and evil for a long time. So the line between a good person and a person in a movie like that is very thin. They could have gone either way.
Mm.
Something forced them to that side. And we're talking supervillains and superheroes here. So,
Right, right. No, absolutely, and I think it's and I think that's where we have to practice that. You know, being able to discern. And how do we discern? It goes back to your question. How do we discern between this, that, and the third? Well, I think that comes with time. I don't think we ever know, you know, ever know like first sight of whatever or said person or this person or that situation. I don't think we ever know that whether it's going to be a good or a bad situation.
so does that mean that there's no such thing as love at first sight?
I disagree with love at first sight.
All right, good. I wanted to make sure because what you just said flies in the face of love at first sight.
But yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think it's love at first sight. I think it might be lust. I think it might be
It's
you know,
attraction, yeah.
right
It's the
attraction.
pheromones working.
Right. 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 And I think depending on what I think will lead to my thoughts will lead to, if I allow them to dictate my behaviors, will lead to said certain outcomes.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's neither here nor there. But I think overall, it's our perception that determines whether something is good or bad.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting.
And so, how do we stay on the path?
Ooh, well, if we're going there, who knows the path? The path may not be the path. The path is almost just moving forward.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
This is
that was
getting
deep.
deep, isn't it? I'm
That
a
was deep.
philosopher after all.
Right. Wow, that one was deep. Wow.
Yeah, because who's to define what the path is?
Mm. Nobody. It's just a path.
Yeah, but is it the right path? And when I say moving forward, it's probably just moving, because sometimes retreat is just as important as moving forward.
We have to be able to, it goes back to that discernment. We have to be able to discern when I need to take action, when I need to just let it be as it may be,
Hmm.
take a step back or two and reflect on,
Yep.
is the way I'm going the path I need to be on, or do I need to maybe change directions, or maybe even change the way I'm looking at it to make it fit or to make myself feel more comfortable with said.
Absolutely. No,
Wow.
it's I think life is those are life's challenges right there. Is is trying to figure it out. Do you remember when you were a kid and suddenly asking yourself, "What the heck am I doing here?"
Yep. Hmm.
I remember that moment. I was probably 6 or 7 years old.
Hmm.
And what the heck is all of this? Why? And maybe that's what life's all about. Maybe you figure it out at the end. It was all a joke. It was all a dream.
I had a dream. Well, and I
But
think that goes back to what, and this is what I love about existentialist is, it's about the fact that we create and make our own meaning, that you are not obligated to give me meaning or hope. It is me who creates that,
mhm,
not you who creates it for me. You create your own, and I create my own. And I think if I look at it, if we go back to the ideal of the path, it's my perception, it's my experiences, it's my beliefs, it's the meaning and the hope that I am creating as I'm on that path. Whatever path it might or might not be is neither here nor there. But it's just, does that make sense?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's providing providing hope to those around you that they're doing the right thing too. Because we're all in this together. Even if we're walking our own separate journeys, there's a sense of camaraderie in walking together and feeling like you're doing the right thing, or heading in the right direction,
Mm.
right?
Right. No, right, right. Which goes back to, and I hate to say it, but at the same time, I don't hate to say it. It goes back to the idea of community and family,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
and so it all circles back to the same thing.
Hmm. That's that's what it all comes down to, is we weren't meant to walk the path alone.
Mm.
And those people who feel they are probably the ones you're seeking to help right now. We all should be seeking to help, but the ones you're reaching out to, no one's truly alone. Everyone's got something going on with them. No one's walking truly alone, but maybe taking a wider view of the world would give you a glimpse of the people around you.
Mm. Right. I definitely would agree. I think it's, I think at the end of the day, I think it's my perception that we need, or our perception that we need to work on, because I can look at the world in black and white and say it's good or bad. But if I take a great perspective, it's not about being Democrat or Republican. It's not about being black or white. It's not about being American or, UK or Canadian or Hispanic. It's not about that, but it's about us all together in this world and in this lifetime, and we owe each other an obligation to be of service to one another
Hmm.
when the other person is in need and I am not.
Absolutely. Yeah, having lending an empathetic ear, lending a or being there for someone in need. Um,
Mm.
it ranges that feeling of need ranges such a vast scope, but it could be the smallest thing as just saying hi to somebody one day. Um, the smallest thing of just saying, "Wow, you look nice today." Who knows the difference that can make in someone's life?
Mm.
Being kind to each other, showing respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, listen, we're coming up. All right. We have to wrap up somehow, some way, some shape, and sometime
I
today.
know you. I
'Cause
did. I put you in a rabbit hole you'll never dig yourself out of, didn't I?
right. Look, look, I am enjoying the conversation. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to end it, but we have to. Listen, folks, it's going to be more, okay? This isn't the only time he's coming on, okay? He's coming back.
Anytime you ever want me on, call me. You know how to get me.
Right. Lord. All right, so listen, if there's one thing you want somebody to take away from this, what do you hope that would be?
I want the. I want you to look at the people in your life right now and appreciate them. Um, don't wait till tomorrow to tell them you love them. Give them a hug today. Tell them you love them. Tell them you appreciate them. And what that's that's my lasting impression from the book I wrote. And it's gonna be disguised as a newspaper reporter, a grizzled old newspaper columnist, uh, wrapped in a bunch of sports things. But if you peel away the onion, that's what you're going to be left with is a man who who didn't recognize how important his father was to him till he was gone, who let the woman in his life walk away, who he was meant to walk for a lifetime with, and he bet on the wrong thing. He bet it's important to strike a balance between home and work life, and this is a man who was not capable of doing that.
Mm. If anybody wants to buy your book, where can they find it at?
Amazon.com. It's called Dogs Chase Cars. That's got a great story to it too, how that name came about. But you're trying to wrap up, so um,
We have to know. You can't just leave us a teaser. I mean, gee.
so when I was in high school, I was making time with a girl. It was late in the lunch period, and this girl who'd never given me the time of day was talking to me all of a sudden, and she was receptive. And the bell rings, and it's time for me to go to English class, and I'm running a little bit late, but I'm like, wow, I may never get this opportunity again. I'm going to be late. I don't care. And as you would do the same thing, I'm sure. Um, so I stay an extra 5-10 minutes, and I say, "Hey, look, I really got to go," and I go off. Unbeknownst to me, my English teacher was watching the whole thing from across the hallway. Walk into his class late. I looked and I said, "Sorry, I was talking to someone," and he said, "Dogs chase cars, but they can't drive them." So that whole dogs chase cars became kind of a metaphor to me about life. What do you do when um, uh, we chase things all our lives, and what happens when we have the good fortune of catching them? Do we have the ability to keep them? Do we have the ability to maintain their um, honor and their grace, or do we let them get away? And that's where the title of the book came from.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That is so beautiful. And I love that it's a metaphor because it actually makes sense. Actually, I think I'm gonna steal it now.
You can. I need you to read this book for me. I want
Absolutely.
you to read it and then bring me back on and we'll talk about it from that point on. We'll talk about the the uh the path and we'll because we haven't even walked 10 steps together on the path.
Right. I know. Look, this is what I love about the podcast is we meet all these people and we can only dig but so deep within the lot of time we have, and it's like how much it is like we got to do other. I mean, look, I've had people on here multiple times, and it's like we don't cover. I mean, there's people that I'm still trying to get on, and they're coming back on in the near future, and it's like we haven't even scratched the surface even on the first episode. I mean, this is just what this is. Like we're not even scratching the surface.
All right. Well, I hope you've had a good time. I've had a blast on this show. This has been fun.
Absolutely. I've had a absolute freaking blast. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it makes you forget about all that snow out there, huh?
Oh, right. Right. Uh, so if anybody wants to bring you on to their show, have you as a podcast guest speaker, even a TED talk, or even maybe some mentoring, mentoring on some,
Oh,
other
absolutely. You can
projects.
reach me at um, Patrick Sangamino. That's on my Instagram, Sangimino. Um, and then Pat Sangamino is my Facebook. You could find me. I'm out there. So, and then I have a website that is patricksangamino.com. And get the book, Dogs Chase Cars, on Amazon.
Absolutely. Listen, folks, this wraps it up. All right. This is the first episode with Mr. Pat. If you've heard anything here and you have been triggered, please utilize your resources. You have 988, which is the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline. You also have local crisis centers and local emergency departments, whichever you have in your area. If you need immediate assistance, please reach out and seek help. You also have what is called Psychology Today. You can filter it out on their website to get connected with therapists, social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists in your area. If you want more of a private practice type of, resource, so please utilize your resources. They are there if you need them. And thank you all for checking in with us. And Mr. Pat, do not hang up.